Welcome back to Mark on Motoring, and today we are back at the Motorist near Sherburn and Elmet in North Yorkshire, and today is Renault Day. As many of you channel viewers will know, I've got a Renault myself, the Megane coupe, but it's always nice to come and see a few others, especially ones from that same era. Now, one such car we've got here today, Mark II Phase 1 172, owned by Chris. Morning, Chris.
Good morning.
So, what possessed you to buy a Clio Renaultsport?
I think the same as with everyone, it was the thing I wanted when I was 18, I guess. So just you come to that certain time in life. I've had a 172 Cup in the past, and just always wanted one, and just looking around for something nice that wasn't crazy money, to be honest, from that era now, and that is worth investing in, keeping in the garage. Now I've got space for something I don't need to drive every day, and it's just one of those things, I guess, isn't it? It's like the Ford guys now all buying the Cosworths and the RS200s from the 80s, I suppose.
Well, I dare say if this had a blue oval on it, it'd be worth twice as much, wouldn't it?
Nice, wouldn't it? Maybe one day, maybe one day.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have, like myself, of a generation where when these cars were new, I mean, I actually did have a Phase 1 and a Phase 2, but there were much smaller engine versions. We just couldn't afford to insure these. The thing is, now we're coming of age where we can insure them. Good tidy examples, the prices are going sky high, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're not the world's best built cars, I guess. Renault's right, and finding one that's nice, that's being looked after, that's not being tracked, which a lot of these, given what they are, have been, is interesting, and it's nice to have something, I guess, unusual and a bit like yourself, that people don't see every day. So
yeah, I think by this point with Renault, a lot of the quality had improved, but obviously electrics was always a bit of an issue, weren't it? They were always trying to push things and weren't necessarily always ready. I know, I mean, you haven't got a sunroof in here, but one thing both of mine had issues was sunroofs that creaked. Yeah, that were a really common issue with the Mark II Clios. But I mean, it's nice to see such an original car. I mean, as you say, a lot of these, as they got cheaper, because they were a pretty quick car, a lot of them got converted for track or just generally heavily modified. But this looks really, really standard, even down to its original Oz F1 wheels, which I really like.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd like to. There's a couple of bits, just the exhaust and slightly lower with the springs on. So the idea is just to keep it as original as possible, really. Just enjoy it. It's not. I'm probably past the era now of wanting to drive it fast and take it on a track. So hopefully just keep it and. Get to some more shows. I suppose you forget they're 23 years old now, so getting on for that classic sort of keep it for a while. So
well, it's nice to see it out, especially considering that yesterday there was snow on the ground here. So I think as owners of cars like this, we're always a bit torn between the wanting to drive them. They were built to be driven, but trying to not be too precious, but at the same time you don't want to bring them out and ruin them in the bad weather.
I have to say, it only goes out in the dry now. So my friend does laugh at me. So thankfully we're local around the corner, so I get to kind of look out the window and if it's dry on the ground we can pop down. So
you've been able to stick to back roads where there were no salt this morning then.
Yeah, so it gets cleaned and a couple of it's becomes a bit of a garage queen, doesn't it? But I think at this age it's nice to keep them. Everyone does ask me do you use it daily? But I think it would probably be it'd be a crime now, wouldn't it?
It's a car you want to drive daily, but you just daren't. Yeah. You mentioned you have had a Cup before. How did you find? Obviously, that would have been a Phase 2, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
How did you find it compared?
Very similar, really. I couldn't say, not massively different. So this has got the Cup. It's actually got the Cup wishbones, the Cup shocks, the Cup springs. So I guess really, majority of the stuff that was with a Cup, and the guys used Cup stuff on it. So I couldn't, not a massive difference really.
The Cup had slightly wider front track as well, didn't it?
Yeah, like I say, I've never really, even when I had that, I did use that as a daily, and I've never really done a lot of track or anything like that. So I think I have a bit more sympathy towards them now. So I think you would think you'd want to fly around, and then I'm driving around in fifth at 40, not wanting to make sure it's warmed up, particularly when I only come about 2 miles and as far as it goes. So it's a bit more of a.
So unless you go anywhere other than here, you never get a chance to actually warm it up properly.
No, I will do. I will use it, and I did buy it to use it, but I like to. It's as with most people, it's just I get more enjoyment out of cleaning it and little bits and bringing it and showing it and
bringing
it and showing it. So yeah. So that's yeah, it's not particularly exciting, is it? But
No, it's great. It's great. It really is nice to see it out. Well, thanks very much for having a chat with us about it, Chris.
you're welcome.
Cheers.
No problem.
Thank you. As you know, I do love a nice yellow Megane. Obviously, this is my coupe we have here. But behind me, I actually have its sister car, the Cabriolet version. When Renault launched the Megane, they were big into this sort of platform sharing. So first of all, we had the hatchback and the coupe, which was soon followed by the Classic, which was the four-door saloon. The Cabriolet we have here, and the Scenic MPV. This particular Cabriolet is owned by Joe here. Morning, Joe.
All right, Mark.
So how did you come to be in possession of this fine piece of engineering?
Facebook Marketplace. I was trawling for a coupe and I couldn't find one, and then that turned up, and I was like, well, I'll have to have that.
Right.
Just to cue my fascination, I think, really.
Yeah, I must admit I found mine through Marketplace as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny what you can find on a late on an evening, isn't it, when you're trawling through internet?
Yeah.
So yeah, you have mentioned to me in the past that you've obviously been looking for a coupe, but they just don't come up for sale, do they?
No, I haven't seen one for sale for, well, like a Mark one anyway, for months.
Yeah.
I should have bought one previously when they've come before, but I never have.
Yeah, especially these Phase 1 cars. I think the Cabriolets, I don't know, maybe as they got older, people maybe sort of bought them and put them in garages for the winter. Maybe that's why there seems to be a few more left.
Yeah, someone's looked after it. Like, it's been repainted before and it's had the wheels done before, so someone's cared for it, but not in the last few years, I don't think.
No.
But,
yeah, it's. I'm sure you'll get there with it. I know I seem to always find plenty of things that need doing on my car. So how do you find it drives then, being obviously it's had the roof cut out of it?
it's not too bad, actually. It's got a little shake, but it's not floppy or out like that. It's still quite kind of car to drive, really.
Yeah. Obviously the coupe feels quite light on its feet. I don't know what these are like by comparison.
Probably similar, but they'll be a bit heavier, like.
Yeah. Now you've got the same engine as in mine, haven't you? The 1.6e.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same engine.
Yeah, I actually almost bought a F7R engined one year before last that came up, but I just missed out on it. So we need to have a look at this T-shirt as well, Joe. Just, let's have a see this T-shirt you've got. So yeah, for anyone that's not in the know, that was the Maxi Megane that Renault campaigned in rallying back in the day. So what's your plans with the car from here on out then?
Well, I think you could do with a head gasket swap. It's leaking a lot of oil.
Right.
The wheels want refurbing, and a couple of bits, maybe welding on the bits of the sills are starting to bubble up. But apart from that, I'll just keep it until I can find somewhere else.
Yeah. Is this one the electric hood or the manual?
Electric one.
Yeah, so I think some of them actually did have a manual hood as well.
Yeah.
Some of the 1.6s. Was it all operational?
Yeah, it all works still.
Yeah.
All the windows go down, everything still works.
Yeah, the other thing I actually quite like with these cars as well, do you remember the road box conversions you could get?
Yeah, I've been looking for one, but I think the nearest one I could find was Oxford.
For anyone who doesn't know, again, these cars are a 4-seat convertible, but Renault actually offered from the factory something they called a road box, which basically you remove the back seats, you fitted the road box in, and it had a roller shutter in the back, so you had extra storage, and you could wire it in so that when you lock the car, the roller shutter would lock as well, so you had plenty of security there. But it was really nicely styled, and it had those sort of pods that are at the back of the car. It sort of lengthened those, so it really did give it a 2-seat roadster look, didn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely worth having if you can get your hands on one of those. You've had a bit of a drive down as well, haven't you? About an hour or so drive this morning?
An hour and a half down, yeah.
Yeah, nice car to cruise in.
Yeah, it's the first time I've been big distance since I picked it up, and it's very, very comfortable.
Yeah, it's always a bit unnerving that first long journey, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
in an old car.
I was panicking all the way down.
Yeah. Well, at least you're here now and the sun's shining, and we've seemed to have quite a good turnout, so worth the trip. I'm sure you'll agree these cars actually do look at the best when the roof is down. This is what I was saying about these pods. So you've got something similar actually in my coupe with the parcel shelf area. You've got these sort of moulded pods behind the headrest. But if you remove the back seat and fit the road box, it extends these pods all the way sort of up to here. Really does add to the aesthetic of the car. And I suppose in a sense of practicality, because there isn't a great deal of space in those seats, and if you're not going to utilise the seats, well, you might as well have the storage, especially if you're touring. Something else to note, when the hood is actually up on this car, you can actually still access this area and use it as additional storage, so you've got quite a bit of extra storage in the hood carrier if required as well, provided you don't put the roof down. Now this seems like a good opportunity just to give you a very brief update on something that's been happening with the Megane Coupe, which has actually been away for about 3 weeks and I've only just got it back. The car started using a bit of water, which is something it never normally does. It weren't using any oil, there were no evidence of mayonnaise under the filler cap or anything like that, but it did seem to be venting some vapours, especially on cold starts, which it was struggling with. Further inspection revealed that the head gasket had failed. It had got at the water jacket but not at the oil galleries. So the car's been away for the head skimming and a bit of other work as well. There were a couple of valves that were sticking. This did give me the opportunity though to repaint the rocker cover, which is something I've wanted to do for a while, because on all of these engines that you see, the paint seems to have burnt off. Now I'm not going to mention too much about this car today because I have actually featured this on the channel before. I think it was the last time I was at the Walton Classic Show, but this is the ill-fated Renault Satis. Part of a initiative in the early 2000s for Renault to take the brand a bit more at market. This actually replaced the Safran, which I have reviewed one of those on the channel. I'll leave a link at the end to that video, in fact. But yeah, there was the Aventine, which was built by Matra, which was like a 3-door MPV coupe sort of thing. And then there was this car, which was a little more conventional, but still the styling probably weren't to everyone's taste. It weren't your traditional executive saloon car. This particular one is fitted with a 3-litre DCI and it's a range topping example as well, so we've got all the good stuff in there, all the leather and everything. A really, really nice car. Well viewers, I am in my element here because I'm sat in a Mark 1 Renault Laguna, but it's not any ordinary run-of-the-mill Mark 1 Laguna, because this is a 3-litre V6 Monaco. So yeah, by this point phase 2, so we've got the 24 valve engine in this car, as opposed to the 12 valve in earlier cars, and Monaco trim, which means bells and whistles. So we're sat in a nice leather seat with some leather on the door cards. We've even got a sat nav, and I'm told a voice synthesizer as well. Car's also got climate control. Again, bear in mind this is a facelift of a car that's from the 1990s, so yeah, for that time it's things like sat nav were optional even on some really high-end premium cars. I may actually be featuring this car again on the channel, so keep your eyes peeled for that. So this is Sean, and Sean is a proud owner of this fantastic Alpine behind me. This one a GTA V6 Turbo. So what possessed you to buy the French 911 of all things?
It's I was looking for a Sunday pub car.
Okay.
And originally I was looking at 944 Porsches and such like. And one of these cropped up. I'd seen them as a kid, I always liked them, and it was the right sort of money at the time, so away we went. We jumped in with this instead of a Porsche.
Yeah, I must admit, when I've had a look around at, I know they always call them the French 911, with it being a rear engine car. Certainly the earlier ones do feel a little bit more, you can see the rally heritage, but by the time they got to the GTA, it really is a GT car, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I think it was squarely aimed at the 911, which is where they're at, and they wanted a nice, easy, long-distance cruiser, you know, so the epitome of a GT car.
Yeah.
It's a 2+2, so if you got sort of reasonably compact kids or somebody with short legs, then you know it is a viable 4-seater, although you don't want to go that far in it. It's sat in the back.
Yeah, really for a long tour it's probably more for an overnight bag, isn't it?
Yes, I mean it's actually the back of the seats fold down and you can get a decent size sort of bag in each side on it. Right. To the extent they even put a little securing strap in to tie your bags down. There's a little bit of room in the under the bonnet.
The front as well, yeah.
Like most people though, the spare wheels found its way in there rather than sitting in the back next to the exhaust manifold.
Yeah, obviously you did mention you've not had this car back on the road for very long. Have you done any longer trips in it yet?
I'm based down near Silverstone.
Okay.
I'm just up here visiting friends for the weekend, but I've come up to Yorkshire a couple of times. We've done a couple of classic car runs up here. I went to some other friends in the Lake District and did one of their classic car runs. So, yeah, we've done some reasonable trips in it, but we've not been abroad or anything with it.
Yeah, certainly quite an impressive machine though. I mean, these weren't a cheap car. Well, they were cheap compared to a 911, but what were they, about 29, 30 grand?
But yes, with the spec that this one's got, it would have been about 30 grand.
Yeah.
But which,
and back in mid-1990s, early 90s, that was a lot of money.
oh, it was. I mean, well, I did it as an exercise of interest on an inflation calculator, and it's today it would be 100 grand, which is a lot of money for an unknown car, really.
And I think these did actually have a Renault badge on the front, didn't they, back then?
They did indeed.
Yeah.
They had to be badged as Renault because in the UK, Chrysler still owned the Alpine name.
Right, of course, yeah. Yeah.
So everywhere else they were Alpines. Here they had to be Renaults.
Yeah, and I think when you're charging the equivalent of £100,000 for a car, unfortunately the badge snobbery does start to creep in, doesn't it, a little bit?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, you know, who's going to pay? Would you pay £100,000 for a Renault now?
Well, I just might, but no, I don't think I could bring myself to pay that for any car. But
when you bring it up to the modern day, it makes
Yeah.
the modern Alpine seem quite good value for money at whatever
they
sort
are
of money
outstanding
they are.
value, aren't they? They're about just short of 50,000 they
Yeah.
start at. And like you say, for the money, there's nothing else can touch them. I mean, Lotus Emira, you're looking another 20,000, I think, on top. So yeah, they do make quite a compelling buy to the new Alpine, but sadly still out of my reach, unfortunately.
Yeah, mine as well, yes. I mean, this was supposed to be a cheap car, but unfortunately it needed quite a lot of work underneath. They're a plastic shell on top of a steel subframe, effectively, chassis. And the rot was worse than we anticipated. So
Yeah.
They have a big box front cross membrane that holds all the suspension, steering rack, master cylinder. That Renault, in their wisdom, didn't really do much about rust proofing, and when you cut the top off, it just turned into a paper doily and collapsed onto the floor. So
Yeah.
the renovation went a little bit awry, but it is what it is. You find yourself in so deep you can't escape.
My wife always says there's no such thing as a cheap car. I started with a sub £500 Mark 1 Megane coupe, and I tell you, I'm in for a hell of a lot more than £500 now.
Well, yes. It's. I'm just hoping that perhaps one day the value of them might go up, but I think the values are pegged by their rarity, and people are a little bit frightened with spares availability and such like.
Yeah, maybe so. But like I say, at the end of the day, they're built to be enjoyed, aren't they? It's sad, really, that a lot of cars have become investments, and it's nice to see a car like this that someone's out enjoying and using.
Yes, I mean it was bought to be a Sunday car, you know,
Yeah.
to go out, do stuff like this with, and realistically for the sort of money they're worth, you're going to buy a really nice MGB. You know, there's not much else for that sort of money you're going to buy that's this different.
And I've driven an MGB, and as much as I really like the look of them, when I drove one, I felt like I was in a Land Rover Defender. You sit very they're not. Whereas I imagine one of these, once you sat in them, they're actually quite a comfortable car, aren't they?
It is comfortable. There's a lot of once you're in, there's a lot of room in there. It's very good.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Sean.
Okay, thank
Cheers.
you. Good to see you.
I always say when you come to these events, you really don't know what's going to turn up, and I've never seen a Renault traffic van that looks anything like this before. Definitely unique. Recently, I actually found myself browsing the classifieds looking at Twingo RSs. They do seem to be holding the money quite well at the moment. Obviously, everyone remembers the RS Clios. The Twingo, Clarkson actually reviewed one on Top Gear, and he actually really, really liked it. They weren't all that an expensive car either. They were about 11 or 12 grand they started at new. Couple of grand more if you wanted one of the special edition Gordini models, but they're really starting to gain quite a lot of favour now, and quite a lot of these events I will see sort of owners clubs and things with these cars. Well, it's been another fantastic day here at the Motorist. Quite a nice selection of cars here, which is good. I were quite concerned, considering the weather that we have had the last few days, that a lot of people wouldn't turn out, especially some of the older cars. By the time you see this video, I should have been here again filming the Cars and Coffee event, and I believe there is a mini owners club coming up, so that should make for an interesting video as well. As always, if you haven't already, do hit that subscribe button, and if you've enjoyed that video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. I will catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.